current state of the MCU is questionable, to say the least. Reactions to Phase 4 were mixed to negative overall, and while I did like several things to come out of that phase, Multiverse of Madness, Loki, Ms. Marvel, and No Way Home, to name a few, I'm not going to disagree with anyone who said She-Hulk, Eternals, and Thor Love and Thunder were complete dog shit. I'm not going to disagree with anyone who argues that 90% of these Marvel shows should have been movies. As far as Phase 4 is concerned, I'm about in line with the majority. There were definitely things to like, but there was also an awful lot to dislike. I am in complete and total agreement with this. That brings me to today's topic, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, the kickoff to Phase 5 of the MCU. Now, to give you all some context here, I don't hate the first Ant-Man film. If anything, it's grown on me a bit since becoming a dad. At the end of the day, it's a film about two dads who want to be heroes to their daughters. I still don't think it's great, but the core message of the film is nice, and I appreciate it more now as a father. Ant-Man and the Wasp, however, I really don't like at all. Ghost is a tragic villain, but she's not particularly memorable. Lawrence Fishburne and Michelle Pfeiffer were both completely wasted. And could someone please tell me what Walton Goggins was even doing in that movie? Seriously, you could have done that whole damn movie without him. It was just a complete waste of a good actor. To put it simply, outside of maybe Scott's relationship with his daughter, the film did absolutely nothing for me. Definitely one of the MCU's worst films for my taste. So I went into Quantumania with a lot of skepticism. I was expecting to drag this movie through the mud. I was expecting another disappointing Marvel film. And when I saw the critic rating, believe me, I wasn't swayed. I was scared that this might actually be the end. That the MCU would just go out with a damn whimper. There are some people who say this is low-tier Marvel. There are people who say this is the worst Marvel film. There are some people who say that this film is a tragedy beyond words. Well, I'm sorry, I'm not one of those people. I absolutely loved Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. Not only did I love it, but I will honestly take this film over most of what Phase 4 gave us. I'm dead serious. The third outing for Ant-Man is one of those films I watch, look at the critic scores, and go, what film did these people watch? I have rewatched the film several times since its release, and each time I watch it, I try to put myself in your shoes and see the film you all see. I'm sorry, I can't do it. I don't see the flaws, okay, most of the flaws you people are seeing. And yeah, considering how I felt about the first two Ant-Man films, the first being serviceable and the second one being an absolute train wreck, I was not expecting to like this film at all. But I'm so glad I did. I like any film that has me going in expecting it to be bad, only for it to turn out great. The 2017 Power Rangers film definitely comes to mind in that regard. So before I go into everything I love about this movie, let's discuss the few things that didn't do it for me. First of all, Bill Murray. Now, I love Bill Murray, and I did like his presence here as Kryler, but when all was said and done, he felt very superfluous to everything happening. Like, you could have done the whole film without him. He's in very little of it. I really wish they had done more with him, and it felt like a waste of a good talent. And I'll be fair, if I'm going to call out Ant-Man and the Wasp for wasting Walton Goggins, and Lawrence Fishburne, and Michelle Pfeiffer, I'm going to do the same for Bill Murray here. It's a shame, because there was a lot of potential with Kryler. Second is MODOK. Now, I didn't mind that they made him Darren Cross. I didn't even mind his design. What bothers me is that his intro scene is fantastic, but he is quickly turned into a joke a few scenes later, and his demise in the movie just left much to be desired. I won't lie, I got a few laughs out of it, but this should have been a character out for blood and revenge. It looks that way at first, but after that they just sort of abandoned it, which was really disappointing. And finally, I didn't really like the ending. Oh, not the climax. That was entirely awesome. I loved every minute of that. What I didn't like was the final 2 minutes where Scott and Hope go home. In my honest opinion, what this movie really needed to hit it home emotionally was to kill Scott. If Scott had died keeping Kang in the quantum realm, it would have been tragic and impactful. Remember, this is a character who, for all of these films, wants to be his daughter's hero. All he wants is to protect his daughter when all is said and done. So if he had died to protect his daughter from Kang, it would have been sad, but also would have ended his story on an absolutely perfect note. Instead, they opted for a happier and ultimately safer ending, and it just didn't really do it for me. I just wanted to rant there, but really think about what my only issues were with this film. The one character that could have used more screen time, if anything, that's a nitpick. I didn't like one aspect of one of the villains, and I didn't like the last 2 minutes. I'm sorry, but all of these things mean nothing when compared to the rest of the greatness the film has to offer. And we're going to start out by talking about the best thing in this movie for me, Kang, played by Jonathan Majors. I have heard so many people talking shit about this villain online, and I'm sorry, I defy you, fucking defy you, to tell me why he's a bad villain. Please, I'm all ears, fucking enlighten me. From where I'm sitting, Kang is one of the best villains the MCU has had in a good long while. Hell, the only Phase 4 villains that even come close to him are Green Goblin and Scarlet Witch. Jonathan Majors' performance as Kang the Conqueror is brilliant. He's coldly calculating, menacing, manipulative, and at times, legitimately scary. When he shows up to confront Scott in the film for the first time, I got chills. Honestly, Jonathan Majors, in regards to his performance here, is a lot like Philip Seymour Hoffman in Mission Impossible 3. Much like Hoffman, Majors doesn't need to overreact or go over the top to get his point across as Kang. He can just walk into a room with a calm yet calculating look that just screams, "You are all beneath me, I'm stronger than you, I'm smarter than you, I've killed countless Avengers across countless universes, I don't need to waste my time on your ass." He's an egotistical bad guy, but one that's actually earned the ego. He can simply talk to you and scare the hell out of you. That is an effective villain with an outstanding performance to back it up. Paul Rudd is once again great as Ant-Man. He fits the role of Scott Lang like a glove. I loved his whole showdown with Kang at the end of the film.
I don't have to win. We both just have to lose.
Evangeline Lilly once again does good work as Hope Van Dyne. I know a lot of people have complained about her not being in much of the movie, which I adamantly disagree with, but more on that later. Catherine Newton does a good job playing Cassie Lang, which was the biggest surprise for me. I thought it was incredibly shitty of Kevin Feige and Disney to not even tell the actress who played Cassie in Endgame that she was fired. No. She found out when we all did at the Disney investor presentation, and then submitted a tweet where she was clearly disappointed, but more understanding than she probably should have been about the situation. I'm sorry, that was a dick move on Feige and Disney's part, and I'm not defending either one of them for that. That being said, Catherine Newton did very well in the role. The fact that Furman got screwed wasn't her fault. She was just hired to play a role, and she played the role perfectly. Speaking of perfect, Michael Douglas and Michelle Pfeiffer, both are outstanding in this film. I love that they got up to having bigger roles in this one, and it was great to see the OG Ant-Man and Wasp kicking just as much ass as the Ant-Man and Wasp were used to. Another complaint I keep hearing about this film is how Hank and Janet are more main characters instead of supporting players this time around. Oh, this movie's called Ant-Man and the Wasp. I don't care about Janet's king crap. I don't care about Hank and his ant army. I want to see Ant-Man and the Wasp. Ant-Man and the Wasp. Every time I hear someone make this complaint, all I want to do is smack them. Primarily because, and say it with me now, Hank and Janet are Ant-Man and the fucking Wasp! Did we just fucking forget that at some point? He is the original Ant-Man. She is the original Wasp. None of this is misleading. It is showing both generations of these heroes working together and kicking ass together. What the fuck is wrong with that? The short answer is, nothing! Nothing's wrong with that! But we're not done yet. Let's use this to segue into a new section of the review, a little segment I like to call the Top 5 Dumbest Complaints About Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Number 5. Why didn't Janet tell them about Kang? Yeah, guys, I never told y'all about this, but you know what I like to do at nights when the moon is full? After spending the better part of a few decades away from my family? After fighting an interstellar war that I personally started? After watching countless innocents die at the hands of a madman that I helped empower, and fighting God knows how many battles that left me with crippling PTSD, you really know what I want to do after all that? Talk about that shit over milk and cookies. Seriously. I'm sorry. When you have been through some traumatic shit, the last thing you want to do is discuss it. And she knows Hank and Scott can't go deep enough into the quantum realm to see the other universe, so as far as she knows, Kang is trapped. Without her or Hank's technology, he's screwed. Why would she talk about it instead of just forgetting her traumatic experience? She wouldn't. And I sure as hell wouldn't either. Number 4. MODOK looks terrible. Oh, wow. You mean a character that looks utterly ridiculous, embarrassing, and terrible in every realm of media? Whether it be cartoons, streaming, television, gaming, or comics? Looks absolutely ridiculous, embarrassing, and terrible on film?
I am shocked. Shocked! Well, not that shocked.
Look, I don't care. When it comes to MODOK, nothing you do with him will ever make him look good. He is the dumbest looking Marvel character of all time. This is not even up for debates. And hell, I'll take this over most versions, if only because that armor was pretty badass. At least they knew it would look stupid and found a way to cover him up from time to time. Number 3. The Wasp is barely in the movie and doesn't do anything! Oh yeah, except, save her parents, save Scott on multiple occasions, prevent Kang's escape into our world, thus saving the entire universe. Yeah, she doesn't do anything, except, save everyone. It's almost like she's a superhero or something. I'm sorry, watch this damn movie again. Hope the entire movie is either with Scott or Hank and Janet. She gets just as much screen time as any one of them. Number 2, why didn't we see these things in the last film? I'm honestly convinced that those who said this didn't even watch the damn movie. I'm adamantly convinced. Just play the clip.
Why didn't I see any of this?
You weren't able to look deep enough. Not through the void and subatomica. It's a place outside time and space. It's a secret universe.
I really shouldn't even have to say anything beyond showing that clip. They literally explained it right there. Clear as fucking crystal. Hank could never look deep enough into the quantum realm before. The only reason they were there now is because they were sucked down there by MODOK. It helps to pay attention. Number 1. The movie has Avengers Endgame not make any sense. And this was the complaints that ultimately convinced me that some people should just not be allowed to breed. Again, this is explained in the goddamn movie. Hell, it was explained in the last Ant-Man movie, if you want to get technical. There are pockets within the quantum realm where time dilations are created, and thus, time can move differently. There's also places within the quantum realm where time doesn't move differently. If Endgame's rules applied to the entire quantum realm, Janet Van Dyne wouldn't have aged a fucking day there. This answer should have been obvious to you before you even stepped foot in the theater. But even if it wasn't, they explain it in this movie with the ant army that Hank controls. His ants went through the quantum realm the same time as him, but they ended up in a time pocket. And what was essentially a matter of hours for Hank and our heroes ended up being hundreds of years for the ants. I'm sorry, watch the damn movie next time. You people cannot be this ignorant. I'm sorry, none of these complaints are valid to me. If you have seen the movie, I shouldn't even have to explain why these complaints hold no water. But screw it, I did it anyway. Back to the film. The world design for the quantum realm was fun and creative. I love the idea of there being a whole other universe beneath the quantum realm. It kind of reminds me of the ending of Men in Black, where our galaxy is just a marble in an alien's bag. It's a clever concept that they take full advantage of here. The visuals of this world look amazing. I love the creativity of the creatures and the obvious hard work that went into them. And this actually solves a huge problem I had with the second film, which was, how the hell did Janet Van Dyne survive all those years? It made absolutely no sense in that film that Janet Van Dyne aged like a fine wine in the quantum realm. Well, this film explains. She was in another universe beneath the quantum realm, which has its own society and own sustenance. Very simple explanation. Speaking of which, let's talk about Janet Van Dyne. Let me tell you, I was a bit salty about the way the other two films treated this character. She gets a random flashback in the first film, which was pretty weak. It was a little better in the second film, but she's only there at the very beginning and very end of the movie, so there's not much of an impact for Michelle Pfeiffer to make there as the character. I was so happy to see that corrected here. I'm sorry, I waited too damn long for the MCU to finally put some respect on Janet Van Dyne's name. For anyone who has read the comics, Janet Van Dyne is probably one of the most important Avengers. And to give you an idea of how important she actually is, she came up with the name The Avengers! It was her idea! I just wanted, for one time, for her to play a more pivotal, kick-ass role, just like she does in the comics. And just like my waiting to finally see Scarlet Witch done right was paid off in Multiverse of Madness, all my waiting to see Janet Van Dyne done right was paid off here in Quantumania. They made her this smart, resourceful, freedom fighter badass, and I couldn't be happier. This is a character who truly deserved this treatment from the get-go, and only now is getting the respect she deserves. I love the backstory with her and Kang here. I thought Pfeiffer and Majors played off each other perfectly. It's so clear the PTSD she's suffering after fighting him for so many years. It's downright haunting at times. But now moving on to Cassie Lang. A lot of people have crapped on Cassie, saying she's being an angry bitch towards her father, which is out of character for her. Again, I adamantly disagree. It's actually consistent when you think about it. All people see is her being mad at her father for riding his fame and not being a hero anymore, which after saving the world, he should be able to do. But let's put ourselves in Cassie's shoes for a moment. Her father was an ex-con who became a superhero. He was always her hero, and even told him in the second movie she wanted to be his partner. She grew up with aspirations of wanting to be just like him. Now, after being stuck in the quantum realm for 5 years, he's back, she's fully grown, she has the opportunity to be a hero just like her dad, and he seemingly doesn't want to do it anymore. All those years of having dreams of being a superhero with her dad just seemingly flushed down the drain. So she does what any other teenage girl would do in this scenario. She rebels. She goes to protest and attempt to help people who lost their homes in the blip. She gets herself in trouble to get her father's attention. This is literally teenage behavior 101, guys. When you feel like you are not being seen for your potential, or you just want your parents' attention, you'll do anything to get just that. All she wants is her father to get off his ass and start being her hero again. Even when they get stuck in the quantum realm and have an opportunity to help a resistance unit, Scott doesn't really seem to care. It's only her disappointment in him and his need to save her from Kang that kicks his ass into gear. If you look at the progression of the character within the story's context, this is Cassie inspiring her father to be the hero she knows he can be, the same way he inspired her for years. And in the end, Cassie proves herself to be just as resourceful, smart, and capable as her father. So no, her acting this way is 100% logical if you look at the trilogy as a whole. It completely works. This was the logical next step. As I said, I love the world created in this film. I found it unique, fun, and full of imagination. Hell, at times it felt like something out of Star Wars, and I appreciated the amount of effort that went into it. And given the news that came out about the effects artists being overworked, underpaid, and constantly hitting near impossible deadlines, that could not have been easy. The Quantum Realm is an original world with original looking inhabitants. I'm glad it exists. At the end of the day, I just don't understand the near universal hatred of this film. Even more so, I simply can't fathom how this is the lowest rated MCU film to date on Rotten Tomatoes. Really? This is ranked lower than Eternals? Lower than Captain Marvel? Lower than Iron Man 2? Lower than Thor the Dark World? Lower than Thor Love and Bullshit? I got nothing. I'm sorry, even if you dislike this movie, you cannot tell me with a straight face that this was worse than any of the films I just mentioned. Look, if you hate the movie, not much I'm going to do to change your mind. But I hope that I've at least provided a solid argument for it. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania is the biggest surprise I've received from the MCU in a long time. It's not a movie I expected to like, let alone love. But I did walk out loving it. Others may have hated it, but for me, it's top tier Marvel that only gets better for me with each viewing.
So, what's it gonna be? Ant-Man.